Sure, why not? We'll see what notes we get. How's it going, everybody? So I wanted to talk about the cars that I'm selling and why, just to follow up with the last video. Also, I made a purchase. Yeah. So today I want to talk a little bit about the cars that I have chosen to sell, why I've chosen to sell them, and tell you that I already bought another one. We'll get to that. I want to explain my logic behind that. The Triumph Herald is already spoken for. And it was spoken for as soon as I made the video and put the cars like up for sale. As soon as I kind of made the announcement, which it took a long time for me to come to the conclusion that I was okay with selling them. And it took my friend Terry, who lives in town, about 2 seconds to send me a text and say, hey, I want that car. He has a Morris collection. He has a Jag. He has a Riley. He just sold a Riley, and he just sold a Singer Gazelle, which I was lucky enough to get a ride along in the Singer Gazelle, and we did a little impromptu photo shoot last week, and that was really cool. So those cars are getting shipped all the way to the Eastern Seaboard, which tells me that there's a shortage of British car enthusiasts around here. With the space in the garage, Terry said, well, I need something to wrench on, you know? So he said, like the Herald. Always like the Herald. I think he said he had a Herald in the past, and he knows his way around Triumphs of all sorts, so he's definitely the guy to have that car. The Herald was owned by a single family since, I think, the late 1960s. It was used in parades. It was used kind of as a Sunday driver. It was passed along through the family, and then I bought it from the estate of the younger son, and he was really not wanting to sell it. It was one of those things where I put in one bid on the car, and it won. And I was not equipped to go to Illinois the next day or the day after, whatever it ended up being. And I was like, well, if it goes for this, then I'd kind of be a fool not to go do that, right? And I had the warehouse. I hadn't gotten the news about losing the big warehouse yet, so I was like, cool, why not? And that was the last car I bought before I got news that I lost that big warehouse space, that I had about 2 months to get out of an 8,000 square foot warehouse with over 20 cars. So by default, it's kind of the one that I've got the least investment into. I have the least attachment to. I've done the least with it. And I think as a result of that, it's just sort of by default the one that would go out the door first. I have no idea what song this thing is playing. I want to make production quality videos of all the cars once they sell. My plan is to kind of tell the story of how I got it going to get the car and kind of the adventure that we had together in the hometown or wherever it was, followed by, you know, going over the car, my experience with it, and ultimately selling it to a new home. And the crazy part is that was never the plan, you know? I got all of these thinking that I would see them through. I, at some point, got called a hoarder by the first person, and then the second, and then the third, and eventually it was like, well, maybe I am kind of hoarding these things, you know? It's like, if they're doing more sitting than they are doing something, I mean, the only way to really justify that is to have a museum, right? And like organize it and charge people for entry or get funding for entry or somehow, you know, fund the whole thing. And I did some cursory looking into how I could organize a nonprofit and start a museum, but I don't think I'm quite there yet. And even if I was, I think some of these cars, particularly the Audi Fox, particularly the GT6, they don't quite fit in with that. And also they just need to get back on the road. They need to go to somebody who is going to rehab them and love and care about them and get them back on the road. I apologize if this video is out of focus or otherwise not very well produced. That's kind of my thing at this point because of circumstance and having to do it that way. The GT6 was owned by a world champion barefoot water skier in Minnesota who died at the age of 69 years old, barefoot water skiing. I can't do that at 34 years old, so I am very envious of that. I think that's an awesome person all around, and at some point he picked up a GT6. It has a Minnesota plate on it, and he bought it in 1985. So I know it's like been living in Minnesota for a long time, but according to the auctioneer, it was in his garage. He had not really worked on it in a long time, and I found some things that kind of contradicted that. It's got new plugs, new wires, new, I think, cap and rotor, and a couple other things are shiny under the hood. But it's just one of those cars that doesn't it's like the moment I saw it, when I bid on it, when I bid on the GT6, again, I was like, wow, a GT6 for this price. That's amazing. That's awesome. And in the back of my mind, I hadn't seen my great grandmother in years. And she was getting up there in age. She was entering her 90s. And she was just over in Wisconsin, and this was in Minneapolis. And so I went to my family. I said, hey, you guys haven't seen her in a long time. Would you like to go with me on this trip? And it didn't line up for mom, but for dad, it did. And that ended up being the last time that my dad and I saw my great grandmother alive. The next time we went up there was the funeral. And it was like a couple months later. So yeah, I hold a place in my heart for that car because it's the last thing that connected me with her. It's one of those things, I think we all have that, where it's like, oh, I'll get out there and see him eventually, you know. Oh, I really need to get up there and see so-and-so. And when the circumstance aligned, when I was like, oh, this is a reason to go up there, bring a car home that I've always wanted, the GT6. I've always thought they were really cool. If you don't know, it's a Spitfire with a roof and an inline six. So it's just like a Spitfire, but cooler. And for it to line up to see her one more time, it was like, I couldn't have asked for a better thing to happen. But when I first saw the car, I was just like, oh, this is not how it was represented in the photos. The photos conveniently did not include the overspray that's on pretty much everything. Somebody repainted this car with their eyes closed. They didn't tape over anything. And, you know, the photos also, I won't hold the auctioneer to this one because they wouldn't have known, but the photos did not show that the frame had been botched on the front right side. It looks like somebody, to Katie's recollection, Katie said they just drove it through a cornfield, and I don't disagree with that. Somebody broke a control arm off of this car, and you got to hit something pretty hard. Even though that's a pretty spindly control arm, you got to hit something pretty hard to break a control arm off a car. And what they did was they welded it back on while learning how to weld, as far as I can tell. And then they took the shims. What you're supposed to do is shim out that control arm to get your camber right. And they piled all the right side shims on the left side because when they welded the right side together, they introduced like 10 or 12 degrees of camber to the right side. And they just thought, oh, well, I can just pile all the shims on the left side and even it out and call it good. All the shims in the world ain't going to make that much difference. This car has just astronomical amounts of camber. It's not even matched on both sides on the front. It's static. This is not like a coilover setup where I can adjust this. It's welded in place. It needs the frame repaired up there. You can see where the impact with whatever they hit soda canned the frame a little bit in that area, and that's not good for business. I wouldn't want to be going down the road, taking a hard right-hand turn and experience a weakness in the frame. I don't know what happens when you do that, but I don't want to find out. So I like to, when it's a sports car, I like to drive my cars like sports cars. If this was like the Mercedes where it was like Sunday driver boat, I may not be too worried about that. But for a car that's meant to be driven in a spirited manner, I think safety should absolutely come first. So the GT6 just really wasn't what I kind of hoped it would be in my mind. And over the coming months, it really became clear that the purpose for that car was to reconnect me with my great-grandmother and my father, my great-grandmother, and that the car itself might be inconsequential. It looks like a runner. It looks like somebody was chasing a running condition with all the new parts. So the only thing it was missing, well, it wasn't missing a starter, but we accidentally broke the starter trying to free it up. So I need to buy a starter or get a starter repaired. Can you even do that anymore? It's certainly not around here, I don't think. But either find someone to get the starter fixed or buy the starter for $100 and some odd. And I'll probably be like around the $3,000 mark on that car because it is a solid GT6 for the most part. It is all there, and it is a GT6, which they don't really grow on trees. So I think I can at least not take a bath on it, but I certainly paid all the money. I've got more than that into it. And this is one of the very few times I try to only buy stuff that I'm at least not going to lose money on. But this time I think I may have up a little bit. See what I did there? I may have up. But anyway, it'll make somebody a good car. Don't know why I'm Italian all of a sudden. The Fiesta. I gotta take a drink for this. I love the Fiesta in concept. I love looking at it. I love the videos that we got to make with it. I love the videos I have never even released yet, but I just don't drive it. Sitting here right now, I literally don't know if it runs. I've forgotten if it runs. I don't even remember why I parked it. I don't remember why I stopped driving it. To my dad's recollection, I took it to a show one weekend and then just parked it. To Katie's recollection, I took it to a show another weekend and then just parked it. So as far as everybody knows, this is a running, driving car that I just have decided not to use. And if that's the case, it needs to find a new home. It's as simple as that. If I haven't used it in so long that I've forgotten, it needs to find a new home. But even when it was running really well, it just wasn't running great. I know it's a 1.6, but it didn't feel like strong enough. I know it's a single carb and all that stuff, but this is an engine that is used in like low cost builds and other like, you know, formula racing cars in the day and stuff like that. Like, this is a pretty good engine. It should have some power, and it just doesn't quite feel like it's there. And there was that compression test we did in the first video or second video where it was just kind of inconclusive. We couldn't get compression on one cylinder. I don't think it's running on 3, but I do think something is up. I bypassed the mechanical fuel pump and replaced it with a electric fuel pump that I harvested off the BMW, which again is another sign that you should probably just move it on. If you're taking parts off of other cars to make this one run, then is it really that important? The Fiesta is really cool. It has the look. The Patina is phenomenal in my opinion. It has the look of just like a cool like old rally car. And I think somebody should probably use it for that, or for road rallies, or just to like fart around. But I think that I'm going to try to put that on Cars and Bids. We're going to see if they accept that for Cars and Bids. They've accepted kind of project cars before that at least run and drive. And I'm sure I can get it to that point. In my day job, I'm an automotive journalist and SEO and content creator for written content. So what I would like to do is kind of put together a walkthrough of how to purchase, how to sell a car on Cars and Bids. And the only way to do that is to sell a car on Cars and Bids. So I would really like to have that experience. I'm sure there'll be cars in the future that I have that will be like Cars and Bids-esque vehicles. So I would like to get my foot in the door and get that started. But I just kind of also want to have the experience. I like the platform. I like what it's about. I think it's a place where that car could find a good home. And there you go. So I'm leaning toward Cars and Bids for that one. One that I didn't mention in the previous video is my Kawasaki Ninja 250, lovingly named George, which is going to be sold hopefully on Bring a Trailer. As you can see, I'm doing everything to avoid blank book blanket place because I don't want to use it. I don't want to field, 1,000 questions about whether I want to trade for a TV or whether I'll just give you the item for free. I'm not really sure how that works. I've been on Bring a Trailer since before they even started selling cars. I remember when it was 2009 when I found Bring a Trailer, and I was working a summer job at the state, and I showed up on Monday and I finished all the work they gave me, and they said, "Really? You finished all of that?" And I said, "Yeah." And they said, "That was supposed to be your work for the week." And it was like Tuesday afternoon, and I was done with it. I was like, "So what do I do?" And they said, "Well, I guess you should look busy. Otherwise, they'll give you more work to do." I would just look busy if I were you. And I said, "Okay, that's how efficient this is. I'm going to go look at cars." So that's when I found Bring a Trailer. And I did eventually ask for more work. I was not standing for that, and I was bored out of my mind in like 2 days. They hadn't even started selling cars on the platform yet, and it was really fun to kind of watch the platform grow and become what it is. I've always wanted to sell a car on there, but I didn't really have anything that was like the caliber of Bring a Trailer until they shifted more toward the 80s and 90s and now sort of cars. And I do think that this motorcycle is in good enough condition that it needs to find a home that is going to love and care for it, and not some kid on Marketplace that's going to spray paint it and crash it. Sorry, kids. We'll have to see if it gets accepted. So 6,000 some odd original miles, never down, never dropped, owned previously by a guy who bought it because he wanted to scout out the roads in the spring before he took on the roads with his Ducati Panigale R. He had a $30,000 Ducati he didn't want to wreck, so he bought the Ninja, and he maintained it like a Ducati, but it was okay if it got wrecked because it wasn't a Ducati. And that's why it's got Pirelli Diablo Rosso tires on a 250, and it's been changed with Motul oil this entire time. Modal, not Motul. What else was in the video? Gosh. R6. I bought this bike pre-COVID, and I've never done a thing with it. I don't even really have any footage of this bike. This is a picture of the bike as it sits right now. And I have literally never done anything with it because I thought I was going to build a track bike, and then I got away from riding on the track for a while, and I don't know. It's more work than I've ever done on a bike, pulling the cams and shimming the valves and all that stuff. And every time I looked at that bike, it needed something else. Oh, the valve cover gasket's leaking. Oh, the side cover gaskets are leaking. Oh, the grips are shot and they need replaced. Oh, and it's more and more stuff. I am going to batten down the hatch and I'm going to button that bike up and finish it and put it on Marketplace. And if a kid wants to go wreck that one, I guess that's fine. I think that's pretty much it for this little update. I did buy a car, and I will introduce that car to you very soon. And I want to preface that by saying that the reason I bought a car is because it will make money. I don't love in my mind the idea of knowing that I'm buying something to get rid of it eventually for money. But boy, when something goes cheap enough, what am I supposed to do, you know? I think this is a really good one. I think it's going to be a car that I can show you guys and you will love it and enjoy it. I can't even go get gas in it without somebody coming up and going, wow, I haven't seen one of those in years. It's a really cool car. And I think it'll be a really good candidate for either Bring a Trailer or Cars and Bids. It's probably the nicest car I've ever bought, and that's surprising considering what it is. So I'm excited to show you guys that. That'll be coming out soon. Thank you to anyone who emailed me and reached out to me about wanting to buy one of the cars. I didn't expect any response. I also don't want to turn this into a selling channel, obviously, but I appreciate you guys understanding, and the people who did reach out understood what's up, and they were like-minded, cool car people, so it was good to see that. The Fiesta, I'm leaning toward Cars and Bids. The Herald is spoken for. The GT6 is for sale for ish $3,000, something like that. And bikes will be for sale, and then we'll go from there. Yeah. I haven't bought my last car. I'm for sure on that. I just need to kind of get some fresh air breathed into the thing. There are a few more I'm thinking about selling as well, and we'll talk about that next time. All right, cool. Have a good day. See you later.